Jace adjusted the strap of his backpack as he stepped onto the glass observation deck of the Orion orbital station. Outside, the stars sparkled like diamonds against the black of space, and below, the city of floating platforms hummed with lights and energy. It was Christmas Eve, and though the universe was far from Earth, humans still celebrated the season with their old traditions: laughter, lights, and a sense of togetherness. Jace smiled, taking in the bustling crowd. People of all kinds, humans, aliens, even AI with humanoid forms, mingled, exchanging gifts, laughing, and enjoying the festive mood. He loved this part of the year, even if it was crowded. But more than anything, he loved teasing people, especially when it made life interesting. Leora stood near the center of the deck, watching the decorations with a faint smirk. Her silver-blue skin caught the light from the floating lanterns, and her long, elegant fingers tapped rhythmically against her hollow tablet. She was an alien diplomat from the planet Kalira, known for their sharp wit and diplomatic skills. Jace had met her a few times before, and each meeting left him more intrigued. Leora was clever, confident, and not the type to be impressed easily, a challenge he couldn't resist. He walked up to her with his usual grin. "Leora," he said casually, "you know, you look like you could use a boyfriend for tonight. I volunteer." She turned to him, raising an eyebrow. "Is that pretend?" she asked, her voice smooth, with a teasing edge. "Pretend?" Jace said, pretending to think. "Or maybe for real. Depends if you can keep up with me." The surrounding crowd noticed, whispering and nudging each other with curiosity. Christmas Eve was always full of surprises, but a human boldly teasing a Kaliran diplomat was unusual, to say the least. Leora crossed her arms, smirking. "And why would I need a human boyfriend for a night?" "Because," Jace said, stepping closer, "you look bored, and I happen to be excellent company." He gave a mock bow, causing a few giggles around them. She tilted her head, studying him like a puzzle. Interesting. Are you offering yourself freely? Or is this some kind of game?" Jace grinned wider. "Maybe both, but I promise I don't lose easily." That was the moment the crowd collectively leaned in, waiting for Leora's response. She gave a sly smile and finally said, "Very well, Jace. Let's see if your words are as good as your confidence. But remember, this is only for tonight. One night." "Deal," Jace said, holding out his hand. Leora shook it, and the game was set. The first stop on their date was the zero-gravity ice skating rink. It floated in the middle of the observation deck, ribbons of colorful lights twisting around its translucent walls. Humans skated with practiced ease, while many aliens watched curiously, unsure of how to move in the artificial gravity fields. Jace held Leora's hand as they stepped onto the rink. "Don't worry," he said. "It's all about balance and having fun. Trust me." Leora raised an eyebrow. "You seem very confident." "I am," he said, giving her a grin. "Mostly." They floated into the rink, gliding through the air as if swimming. Leora's initial stiffness slowly melted away as she laughed, discovering that humans could turn even a small activity into something fun. Jace spun around her carefully, keeping her steady, and she began to match his movements with a shy smile. "You're not so bad at this," she admitted. "Not bad," Jace teased, spinning in a small circle. "I'm amazing." She laughed, a sound like soft chimes in the space station. For the first time, Jace saw her relaxed and carefree, a side she rarely showed in diplomatic circles. After skating, they moved on to the floating holiday market. Stalls of shimmering ornaments, glowing treats, and exotic alien foods lined the platforms. Humans and aliens mingled, tasting each other's delicacies and exchanging small gifts. Jace bought a tiny mechanical snow owl that flapped its wings when touched. "Here," he said, offering it to Leora. For luck. Or just to annoy you. Leora took it, examining it carefully. The owl chirped softly, and she raised an eyebrow. You think this will impress me? I think it'll make you smile, Jace said simply. She chuckled, a warm, genuine sound that made Jace's chest tighten. It does, she admitted. They wandered the market, sampling foods and trying alien sweets that fizzed and glowed. Each laugh, each shared glance, brought them closer, making the pretend label feel less real. As the evening went on, the main event approached, the holographic light show. Dozens of drones floated above the observation deck, projecting dazzling images of stars, planets, and snowflakes. The crowd gathered, eyes wide with wonder. Jace took Leora's hand again, guiding her to a perfect spot to watch the show. See that? He said, pointing to a holographic comet streaking across the sky. Humans may not be the strongest or the fastest, but we know how to make moments like this unforgettable. Leora smiled softly, looking at him with something unreadable in her eyes. You humans, you are curious and bold, she said. I can see why you survive everywhere. Jace grinned. Curiosity, boldness, and a little charm. That's the human secret. As the final fireworks exploded in holographic brilliance above them, Jace and Leora laughed together, their hands brushing naturally. In that moment, it felt like more than just a game, like a connection neither expected. But just as the display ended, a sudden announcement echoed through the station. Attention, residents and guests. A sudden meteor cluster is approaching the orbital ring. All residents, please stay calm and follow safety protocols. The crowd murmured nervously, and people began moving toward the emergency shelters. Leora looked at Jace with raised eyebrows. Well, this is unexpected. Jace shrugged, a small grin still on his face. Adventure, right? We humans thrive on it. Leora shook her head, laughing despite herself. You are impossible. And in that moment, with the station's lights flickering softly and stars sparkling around them, Jace realized that this Christmas Eve had already become unforgettable. Not because of the lights, or the skating, or the gifts, but because he had spent it with someone who could challenge him in every way. He glanced at Leora, who was watching him curiously, and thought maybe pretending to be her boyfriend wasn't pretending at all. The announcement about the meteor cluster had caused a minor stir, but Jace remained calm. He looked at Leora, who was still smirking despite the unexpected warning. Well, he said, I suppose our pretend date just got a little more adventurous. Leora tilted her head, amusement in her eyes. Adventurous, yes. Reckless, maybe. You humans seem to have a talent for attracting excitement. Jace shrugged with a grin. It's a gift. The two of them moved with the crowd toward the station's observation lounge, which had been converted into an emergency-friendly gathering space. The lounge was a cozy area with soft lighting, cushions floating gently in zero gravity, and warm drinks being handed out by robotic attendants. Even in the middle of a potential hazard, the station maintained a festive atmosphere. Leora floated closer to Jace, her silver-blue hair brushing against his shoulder. So, boyfriend for the night, she said, teasing. Do you usually handle emergencies this well? Depends, Jace said, gently taking her hand. Do you usually trust humans this quickly? She laughed softly, shaking her head. Not usually. You are unusual. They sat on one of the floating cushions, their legs dangling slightly in the air. Jace handed her a cup of steaming cocoa. The warmth spread through her hands, and she sipped carefully, eyes on him. You know, she said, I was not expecting this evening to turn into something so interesting. Pretending to be my boyfriend was already bold, but now calmly handling a meteor warning, you are full of surprises. Jace grinned. I like to keep life exciting. Pretending or not, tonight is memorable. She smiled, the kind that made the edges of her eyes crinkle slightly. Jace noticed how different she seemed when she relaxed, and he realized that behind her confident, teasing facade was someone who could be playful, curious, and genuinely human in reaction. After a while, the meteor cluster passed safely, leaving only small twinkles in the observation deck's sensors. The crowd cheered softly, relieved. Leora turned to Jace, shaking her head in mock exasperation. You humans really do thrive on chaos? Jace laughed. We call it adventure, and tonight I think we survived it very well. The station's lights returned to their normal brightness, and the festive music resumed. Jace glanced at Leora. Shall we continue our pretend date? Pretend, yes, she replied, floating beside him with a graceful ease. I want to see how far your human charm goes. Their next stop was the virtual snow garden. This was a special station attraction, where holographic snowflakes fell softly and floating trees sparkled with lights. Unlike real snow, this one didn't melt, and gravity was adjustable, so visitors could glide or float as they wished. Jace held Leora's hand as they entered. I hope you like snow, he said. Earth tradition. Leora tilted her head. Snow is fascinating. Cold, soft, and beautiful. Humans celebrate such simple things with such joy. He smiled. Exactly. It's the little things that matter. They moved slowly through the garden, watching holographic snowflakes drift past them. Every now and then, Leora would reach out and catch one in her hand, marveling at how delicate it looked. Jace felt a soft warmth in his chest. Pretend or not, this was a moment he would remember. You humans are clever, Leora said suddenly, turning to him. Not just with technology, but with emotions. You seem to make moments like this feel real. Jace chuckled. That's the human advantage. We may not be the fastest, strongest, or most advanced, but we know how to make life feel alive. She studied him quietly, her expression softening. Alive? Yes. That is a word I would use to describe tonight. After the snow garden, they moved toward a floating cafe. It was small but cozy, with tables suspended by gentle magnetic fields. Robotic servers floated by, offering treats that glittered with edible holographic patterns. Jace ordered 2 plates of sweet pastries, and they sat together, legs swinging in the low gravity. Leora picked up a tiny pastry and examined it. You humans are strange, she said with a playful tone. You eat things for taste and enjoyment, not only for nutrition. Fascinating. Jace grinned. It's part of what makes life fun. Taste, smell, little indulgences. You should try it. She hesitated, then took a small bite. Her eyes widened slightly. Delicious. I understand now. They shared the pastries, laughing at the little crumbs floating away in zero gravity. At one point, a stray crumb drifted between them, and Jace reached out to catch it, but accidentally brushed Leora's hand. Neither pulled away immediately. Careful, she said softly, her smirk replaced by a subtle warmth. I am careful, Jace replied, though his eyes lingered on hers. Mostly. The conversation grew quieter, more personal. They shared stories about their childhoods. Jace about his Earth home, the small town lights at Christmas, and the smell of baked cookies. Leora spoke of her planet Kalira, where the sky glowed with bioluminescent plants, and winters were filled with silent floating lanterns that glimmered like stars. Jace listened, fascinated. Humans had always loved to explore and understand others, and Leora seemed to appreciate his genuine curiosity. You make it easy to feel connected, she admitted. Humans are good at that, he said simply. We make friends, family, connections. It's what keeps us going. For a moment, the playful, teasing dynamic shifted into something quieter, more intimate. Neither moved closer, but the space between them felt smaller, charged with the possibility of something more. After leaving the cafe, they wandered toward the station's observation deck again, which offered a panoramic view of the galaxy. Stars twinkled, distant planets glowed, and the station itself floated like a jewel among the void. Jace gestured at the view. "See that? That's the thing about humans. We may be small in the universe, but we notice beauty. We admire it. And sometimes, we try to share it with others." Leora's eyes reflected the lights of distant stars. "You are different from what I expected. Bold, curious, and strangely gentle." He smiled. "Strange is my specialty, but tonight, I am enjoying it." She laughed softly, floating beside him. "You are persistent, Jace. I will give you that, but remember, this is still pretend. A game." "Pretend for now," he said. "But maybe, just maybe, humans can make games feel real." Leora shook her head, smiling, but didn't argue. They stood together in silence for a few minutes, watching the stars, letting the calm of space surround them. The pretend date, filled with laughter, warmth, and curiosity, was slowly feeling more like something genuine. Finally, the evening drew toward its last event, the zero-gravity light parade. The station had arranged hundreds of small drones to float through the corridors, each projecting tiny lights, colors, and holographic snowflakes. Residents and visitors floated alongside, waving and laughing as the parade passed. Jace and Leora joined the crowd, their hands brushing again naturally. The lights reflected in Leora's eyes, and Jace felt a soft ache in his chest. He realized that tonight, pretend or not, he was genuinely enjoying her company. "You humans really know how to make a night memorable," Leora said, voice quiet, almost thoughtful. "Memorable nights," Jace replied, "are what we live for. Pretend, real, doesn't matter. It's the moments that count." She smiled, leaning slightly closer, though still keeping the teasing air. "You are persistent," she repeated softly. "Perhaps too persistent." "Perhaps," he said, grinning, "but only because I enjoy good company, especially when it's worth it." As the parade ended, they floated toward the center of the station, where a large holographic tree shimmered with lights and snowflakes. Around them, other humans and aliens celebrated, exchanged gifts, and laughed together. But for Jace and Leora, the world seemed quieter, their shared laughter echoing softly in the vast space around them. That night, the pretend date had become a dance of curiosity, humor, and small, shared moments. Jace realized that humans had a way of making even ordinary things feel extraordinary, and somehow he had shared that gift with Leora. And Leora, despite herself, felt something new. Perhaps humans were not just fascinating and clever, they were capable of making hearts feel light, even in the vast emptiness of space. As they floated side by side under the twinkling lights, both of them felt it. The night was not just pretend. It was a beginning, though neither would admit it aloud just yet. The celebration continued on the Orion orbital station, but a soft tension lingered in the background. Meteor clusters, though minor, were always a reminder of the universe's unpredictability. Jace and Leora floated along the observation corridors, still holding hands, enjoying the quiet moments between laughter and playful teasing. "Do you humans ever get tired?" Leora asked, tilting her head as she looked at him. "You laugh, you explore, you somehow remain cheerful even when danger is near." Jace shrugged, his grin unwavering. "We have our moments, but humans like to enjoy life, even in the middle of unexpected challenges." Leora's eyes sparkled. "Unexpected challenges? Yes, you seem to thrive on them." Their conversation was interrupted by a sudden shudder through the station. The lights flickered, and a soft alarm echoed in the halls. Around them, other residents paused, looking concerned, but not panicked. "What now?" Leora asked, frowning slightly. Jace's grin didn't falter. "Probably another minor meteor cluster. Nothing we can't handle." "Let's check it out." They moved quickly toward the observation deck, where sensors indicated a temporary gravity malfunction. Floating platforms were tilting slightly, and some objects drifted unpredictably in the low-gravity corridors. A small maintenance crew was already at work, but the situation needed someone quick thinking. Jace glanced at Leora. "Stay close to me. I've got an idea." Leora raised an eyebrow. "You have an idea?" "I always have an idea," he said, his tone half teasing, half serious. "Humans are adaptable." He quickly scanned the environment, noting magnetic rails and adjustable gravity panels. With a few adjustments and careful placement of floating stabilizers, he guided objects back into secure positions. Leora watched him work, fascinated. His hands moved with precision and creativity, using resources at hand instead of waiting for external help. "You humans really are clever," she said softly. "You improvise. You find solutions quickly." Jace grinned but didn't look up. "It's what we do. Makes life interesting." Within minutes, the small glitch was under control. The platforms were stable, and residents resumed their activities with relieved smiles. Leora let out a quiet laugh. "I must admit," she said, "I didn't expect this. You handled it gracefully." "Graceful?" Jace said, raising an eyebrow. "I call it human ingenuity." "You call it ingenuity," she said, shaking her head, "but I call it impressive." For a moment, the playful teasing between them softened. Leora's eyes lingered on Jace as he floated nearby, relaxed, despite the small chaos around them. There was something reassuring about the way humans handled problems, quick thinking, creativity, and calm under pressure. Jace represented that perfectly. The incident sparked a new curiosity in Leora. She floated beside him as they left the observation deck, her gaze thoughtful. "You humans, you thrive even in uncertainty. You adapt, you think quickly, and you maintain charm." Jace laughed. "Charm is my specialty, of course. But really, it's about seeing possibilities, not obstacles. Life is easier that way." "Possibilities, not obstacles," she repeated softly. "Interesting philosophy." They wandered into the station's central atrium, a massive space filled with floating holiday lights and decorations. Residents were gathering for the next event, the Interstellar Light Show, which involved drones projecting holographic patterns of stars, galaxies, and planets across the entire atrium. Jace guided Leora to a quiet spot near the center, away from the crowd. "Here," he said, "we can enjoy it without being jostled, and I get to explain why humans find beauty in the simplest things." Leora raised an eyebrow. "Explain beauty? I am listening." Jace gestured at the lights above. "Look at them. Holographic stars, spinning planets, floating snowflakes. It's all artificial, but humans can appreciate it because we see the thought behind it. We notice details, effort, and intent. That's why moments like this feel magical." Leora studied the display, her eyes reflecting the holographic stars. "You humans," she said softly, "you see meaning in everything, even in small, fleeting moments." "Exactly," Jace said, smiling. "Life is short, the universe is vast, and we only get so many chances to notice things. We make those chances count." For a while, they floated in silence, watching the lights dance across the atrium. Even in pretend, Jace felt a warmth he hadn't expected. Leora, too, seemed changed, her usual playful distance softened by genuine interest. After the light show, Jace suggested visiting the station's zero-gravity garden again. The floating flowers glowed softly and holographic petals drifted through the air like tiny stars. Leora moved carefully, reaching out to touch a glowing blossom. You humans really know how to make an ordinary place feel extraordinary, she said quietly. Jace shrugged. We make do with what we have. Imagination, curiosity, and a little humor. She looked at him, noticing the way he balanced floating objects with ease, guiding his movements while remaining relaxed. You seem fearless in a way, not reckless, but confident. That is rare. I call it preparation and optimism, Jace said, smiling. And a little stubbornness, maybe. They floated side by side, exchanging small jokes and teasing remarks. The pretend date was becoming something more. They were learning about each other's habits, quirks, and perspectives. Leora realized she genuinely enjoyed his company, while Jace felt a rare connection beyond mere playfulness. Suddenly, a small flower pod floated too close to the edge of the garden. Leora reached for it, but the pod slipped from her grasp, drifting toward an air vent. Jace acted immediately, stretching out and catching it mid-air. Nice reflexes, Leora said, impressed. Reflexes and training, he replied casually, handing the pod back. Humans have a way of staying prepared, even when it's just for fun. She held the pod carefully and smiled at him. You are unlike anyone I have met. Good, Jace said, floating a little closer. I hope to stay memorable. For the first time, Leora's playful smirk softened into something more sincere. She floated closer, her hand brushing his accidentally. Neither pulled away immediately. Pretend, she murmured. Remember, it is still pretend. Yes, Jace said softly, but some moments feel real, even if we call them pretend. The night was far from over. They wandered to the station's panoramic observation deck, a favorite for couples and families. The view of the galaxy from here was breathtaking. Stars twinkled, distant planets glowed, and the station floated like a jewel among the void. Jace leaned slightly against the railing, watching the cosmos. Humans have always looked at the stars, he said, wondered what's out there, imagined adventures, possibilities, and connections. Leora's gaze followed his. Connections? Yes, that is what tonight feels like. A small connection, but significant. You feel it too? Jace asked softly, turning toward her. She hesitated, then nodded. Perhaps, yes. They floated in silence for a few minutes, letting the enormity of space surround them. The pretend date had evolved into genuine companionship, and both of them felt the shift, though neither admitted it aloud. Jace, Leora said finally, you humans are persistent. I can see why you survive everywhere. Persistence, he said, smiling, and curiosity. And sometimes charm. She laughed softly, the sound blending with the hum of the station and the distant twinkle of stars. You are truly remarkable. And you, he said, gently taking her hand again, are extraordinary, even if you pretend to be unimpressed. The night's challenges, the meteor warning, the floating platforms, the small, near mishaps, had all highlighted one thing: human ingenuity, creativity, and adaptability. Jace's quick thinking had kept them safe, while his humor and warmth had turned every small problem into an adventure. Leora realized that humans were not just survivors. They were clever, playful, and capable of deep emotional connection. As the station's lights shimmered and distant stars reflected on the glass walls, Jace and Leora floated side by side, sharing quiet laughter, small stories, and glances filled with curiosity. Pretend or not, the night had become unforgettable. And in that soft, glowing moment, both of them understood. The universe was vast and unpredictable, but together, even if only for tonight, they could navigate it with humor, courage, and perhaps something more than just friendship. The Orion orbital station glowed softly under the lights of distant stars. After the excitement of the meteor cluster and the playful adventures of their pretend date, Jace and Leora found themselves walking toward the central atrium, the heart of the station. The floating holiday decorations shimmered like tiny constellations, and the faint hum of the station blended with cheerful music from the ongoing celebrations. Leora floated beside Jace, her expression thoughtful. "You humans? You always seem to find a way to turn danger into excitement," she said quietly. Jace shrugged, smiling. "We call it adventure, and tonight has been full of it. Honestly, I've enjoyed every moment, pretend or not." She glanced at him, her eyes reflecting the soft glow of the decorations. "Pretend? Yes, but somehow it doesn't feel like that anymore. You make it feel real." Jace stopped floating for a moment, turning to face her fully. "Real?" he repeated, a gentle smile forming on his lips. "Leora, She raised a finger, teasing him. "Careful, Jace. Remember, this is only for tonight. Pretend." "Pretend," he echoed softly. "But sometimes pretend can be the start of something real." Leora studied him, her smirk softening into a genuine smile. The teasing barrier between them seemed to melt under the warm lights. She realized that, for the first time in a long while, someone had made her feel light, happy, and curious, all at once. The next event was the holographic fireworks display. Dozens of drones floated above the atrium, projecting dazzling explosions of colors and light. The crowd gathered, many laughing and pointing, while couples held hands and shared small gifts. Jace guided Leora to a quieter spot near the edge, ensuring they could watch without being jostled. "Look at that," Jace said softly, pointing at the bursts of colors in the holographic sky. "Humans have always loved fireworks. They're loud, bright, fleeting but beautiful, kind of like memories we make with others." Leora tilted her head, her gaze fixed on the glowing patterns. "Beautiful," she whispered. "And fleeting. Yes. It reminds me of why moments like this are important, even pretend moments." Jace reached out, gently brushing a strand of her hair away from her face. "Maybe pretend isn't so pretend after all," he murmured. She looked at him, eyes wide, the playful smirk replaced by a soft curiosity. "Do you mean that, Jace?" "I do," he said simply. "I started this as a joke, but spending the night with you, it feels real. I enjoy your company, your humor, your way of seeing the world." Leora's lips curved into a soft smile. "You humans are very forward." "Forward is another human specialty," Jace said, grinning. "But honest, too. I don't hide what I feel." For a moment, neither spoke. The fireworks reflected in their eyes, creating a quiet bubble in the midst of the bustling station. The night, the lights, and the connection between them felt delicate, precious, and very real. After the fireworks, they drifted toward a quieter area of the station, a floating garden of luminescent flowers. The petals glowed softly, floating around them like stars caught in gentle gravity fields. It was peaceful, far from the music and laughter of the central atrium. "This place," Leora whispered, letting a glowing petal drift through her fingers. "It's beautiful. Almost like it was made for quiet reflection." "Exactly," Jace said, floating closer. "Humans notice beauty everywhere, even in small, simple things. That's how we make moments meaningful." She looked at him, the glow of the flowers highlighting the edges of her delicate features. "You make it meaningful, even when it's supposed to be pretend." Jace's heart skipped a beat. "Leora, I started this night as a joke, but I can't pretend anymore. I like you, not just as a friend, not just as a partner for a game. I really like you." Her eyes widened slightly, and for a moment, she didn't answer. The gentle drift of the pedals and the soft hum of the station seemed to amplify the quiet tension between them. Then she laughed softly, a mixture of disbelief and delight. "You humans are impossible," she said, shaking her head. "You say things so boldly. I don't know if I should be impressed or annoyed." "Both is fine," Jace said with a grin. "I'm used to it." Leora floated a little closer, brushing her hand against his. "Jace, I don't know what to say. This night, it has been more enjoyable than I expected. And now, your words." "Don't think too much," he said softly. "Just feel. That's how humans know if something is real." She hesitated, then laughed again, softly and warmly. "I think I like you too, Jace, more than I expected." A small cheer seemed to echo in the floating garden, though it was only the sound of their own laughter mingling with the hum of the station. The moment felt like it stretched, quiet and gentle, filled with shared understanding and soft smiles. They spent the next hour floating through the station, talking quietly, learning more about each other. Leora shared stories about her planet, its shimmering forests, floating rivers, and quiet winters, where the sky glowed with bioluminescent light. Jace talked about Earth traditions, small towns, warm fires, snow, and the way people celebrated even in small moments. "You humans find joy in everything," Leora said thoughtfully. "Even small gestures, a smile, a story, a shared laugh." "That's the human way," Jace said. "We have to notice it, appreciate it, or it passes by unnoticed." She smiled softly. "I am beginning to understand, and I am beginning to notice you, Jace, in ways I did not expect." He laughed quietly. "Notice me too much, and I might start thinking this pretend game has gone too far." "It already has," she said with a soft chuckle. "But I don't mind." The playful tone returned for a moment, but underneath, the connection between them had grown stronger. Pretend had transformed into genuine care, curiosity, and the beginnings of real affection. As the night progressed, they returned to the observation deck for one final moment under the stars. The galaxy stretched endlessly before them, sparkling with distant lights and possibilities. Jace floated closer to Leora, gently taking her hand in both of his. "Leora," he said softly, "tonight started as a joke, a pretend bet, but I feel like it has become something much more, something real. I want to see where this can go, if you'll let me." She looked at him, her eyes shining with a mixture of surprise and warmth. "Jace, you humans are fearless in your honesty. I didn't expect to feel this way tonight, but I do. I want to see where this can go too." A soft silence fell, the kind that only comes when two people truly understand each other. Floating gently in zero gravity, surrounded by the endless stars of the galaxy, they shared a quiet moment of connection that no words could fully capture. "You know," Jace said with a small grin, "I think humans might be better at this, connecting, caring, sharing feelings than most people give us credit for." Leora smiled softly. "I think I am beginning to see that. You humans, you are remarkable in ways I did not expect." They floated closer, hands brushing, hearts beating in quiet harmony. Pretend had ended. Real had begun. And in the glow of the stars and the gentle lights of the station, both of them felt it. A connection that went beyond games, teasing, or jokes. Something real, warm, and full of promise. As the station's lights shimmered softly and the galaxy spread endlessly around them, Jace and Leora finally allowed themselves to simply enjoy the moment. No words were needed. No pretend remained. Only the quiet, shared understanding that sometimes the universe had a way of giving you exactly what you needed, even in the form of a single, unforgettable Christmas Eve. The Orion orbital station glittered like a jewel in the endless expanse of space. The festive decorations from the holiday celebration still floated gently around the observation decks, casting soft lights across the corridors. Jace and Leora moved through the station, hands brushing lightly, smiles lingering on their faces. After their quiet confessions under the stars, the night felt lighter, brighter, and more full of possibility. "This place is amazing," Leora said softly, looking at the lights floating in the zero-gravity corridors. "Even ordinary spaces feel extraordinary with the right company." Jace grinned. "That's the human advantage. We notice details. We make moments count. And sometimes, we get lucky with amazing company." She raised an eyebrow, smirking slightly. "Lucky, yes. But I suppose I am the lucky one tonight." He laughed, a warm, light sound that made the soft hum of the station feel even cozier. "Maybe, but I think we both are. Adventure, laughter, and now honesty. That's a good combination." Their first stop was the station's zero-gravity observatory, a wide platform with panoramic windows overlooking the galaxy. Stars sparkled endlessly, distant planets glowed, and the station's own lights reflected like tiny fireflies in the void. Floating there together, Jace reached out and gently took Leora's hand. "Leora," he said softly, "tonight started as a joke. Pretend. But now, I don't want it to end. I don't want pretend anymore." Her eyes softened, and she squeezed his hand gently. "Neither do I, Jace. What started as a game has become something real, and I think I am ready for it." He smiled, a mixture of relief and happiness spreading across his face. "Then, will you be my Christmas Eve girlfriend? Not pretend this time, real." Leora laughed softly, her silver blue hair floating around her shoulders. "Yes, Jace, I will." The moment was quiet, peaceful, but full of warmth. Floating side by side in zero gravity, they felt connected in a way that neither expected. The galaxy stretched infinitely beyond the glass, but for now, they were content just being together. After a few minutes, Jace pulled out a small package from his backpack. "I may not be good with big surprises," he admitted, "but I wanted to give you something for tonight." Leora raised an eyebrow, curiosity sparkling in her eyes. "A gift?" He handed it to her, careful not to let it float away in zero gravity. Leora opened it slowly, revealing a small holographic snow globe. Inside, holographic snowflakes swirled around two floating figures, one human, one Kaliran, gliding through a miniature version of the Orion orbital station's holiday decorations. "It's us," Leora whispered, looking at the tiny holographic figures with wonder. "You made this?" Jace nodded. "A little keepsake, a memory of tonight. So even if the galaxy feels huge and unpredictable, we can remember this moment." Leora's eyes shone with warmth. She floated closer, gently holding his hand. "It's perfect, Jace. Thoughtful, clever, very human." He grinned. "Thoughtful, clever, and human. That's me." With the gift exchanged and the confessions made, they drifted toward the station's central holiday plaza, where other humans and aliens were still celebrating. A small crowd had gathered around a floating ice sculpture designed like a winter wonderland, and children, human and alien alike, laughed as they played with holographic snowballs. Jace and Leora joined the crowd, walking slowly, letting themselves be part of the joyful chaos. Leora watched him interact with a group of human children, laughing as they tossed small floating orbs back and forth. She noticed how easily he connected with others, how natural and genuine he was in his care and humor. "You really are remarkable, Jace," she whispered, leaning close. "Not just brave or clever, but kind, funny, thoughtful." He looked at her, smiling warmly. Humans are all those things. And tonight, you reminded me why I love sharing it with others, especially someone as extraordinary as you." She smiled softly, resting her hand against his. "I am glad we met, Jace. Tonight, it feels like the beginning of something wonderful." As the night continued, the station's holographic lights slowly transitioned to simulate snowfall, soft and glittering. Floating through the plaza, Jace and Leora joined in, laughing as they tried to catch the falling holographic snowflakes. Children giggled as they tossed small orbs toward them, and Leora found herself laughing freely, a sound that filled the open space with warmth. Jace caught her hand, holding it gently as they spun slowly in zero gravity. "See? Pretend or not, humans know how to make joy contagious." "You are right," Leora said, her eyes bright. "I didn't think a human could show me so much happiness in one night. But you did." He smiled softly. "It's not magic, it's human ingenuity, and maybe a little charm." She laughed, brushing a stray strand of hair from her face. "Yes, you have plenty of charm. And I admit, I enjoy it more than I should." The playful teasing returned for a moment, but this time it was gentle, warm, and comforting. The night had evolved from a simple game into something deep, meaningful, and full of promise. Finally, Jace led Leora to a small balcony that floated slightly above the plaza. The view was breathtaking. The galaxy stretched endlessly, and the station's lights reflected like a river of stars. He gestured toward the horizon. "Look at that," he said softly. "Humans have always looked at stars and imagined possibilities. Tonight, I imagine a possibility. One where this night isn't the end, but the beginning." Leora floated closer, her eyes meeting his. "I am ready to explore that possibility, Jace, with you." He smiled, holding her hand firmly. "Then we begin, together." A soft breeze from the station's air systems drifted around them, carrying the faint scent of festive treats and the hum of celebration. They stood side by side, looking at the galaxy, feeling small yet significant in the vast universe. Pretend had ended, and reality had taken its place, warm, exciting, and full of connection. As the night drew toward midnight, the final event of the station's Christmas Eve celebration began. The Grand Hololight Show. Hundreds of drones floated into position, projecting patterns of stars, snowflakes, and colorful lights across the observation deck and beyond. The crowd gathered, holding hands, floating gently in zero gravity, and watching in awe. Jace and Leora found a quiet corner to watch together, their hands intertwined. The lights danced around them, reflecting in their eyes. Jace leaned slightly toward her. "Leora," he said softly, "thank you for letting me share this night with you, for trusting me, for everything." She smiled, resting her hand gently on his. "Thank you, Jace, for being brave enough to be honest, for being you." For a long moment, they simply floated together, watching the lights, letting the universe feel endless and full of wonder. Then Jace spoke again, softly but firmly. "Will you be my girlfriend for real? Not just tonight, but beyond? I want to see where we can go. Together." Leora looked at him, her eyes shining with warmth and affection. "Yes, Jace, for real. Not pretend. I want that too." They shared a quiet laugh, floating slightly closer, hearts beating in unison. The pretend game had ended. Real love, genuine connection, and human warmth had begun. As the final light patterns shimmered and slowly faded, Jace and Leora floated hand in hand, surrounded by the soft glow of the station and the endless stars beyond. Around them, humans and aliens alike celebrated, laughed, and shared gifts. But for Jace and Leora, the universe had narrowed to this single, perfect moment. "You know, Jace said softly, smiling. Humans have a way of making the ordinary feel extraordinary. Tonight, I feel like we did that. Leora leaned slightly against him, floating effortlessly in his grasp. We did. Together. And in that gentle, quiet, sparkling moment, they realized that humanity's charm, creativity, and warmth had not only survived in the vast galaxy, they had thrived, connecting hearts across species, creating memories that would last far longer than any holographic display. Jace and Leora held hands, smiled at each other, and floated together in the gentle glow of the Orion orbital station. Pretend was over. Real had begun, and the galaxy, with all its vastness, suddenly felt full of hope, joy, and endless possibilities. The night ended not with fireworks or grand gestures, but with laughter, gentle touches, and the quiet knowledge that the best adventures were often the ones that came from the heart. And for Jace and Leora, this Christmas Eve would forever be remembered. Not as a game, not as pretend, but as the night two hearts found each other in the stars.